It's inflation, inflation, inflation. This has been the topic really since the start of the year. And unfortunately, it's really not going anywhere. Hello, everyone, and welcome to yet another edition of the SwissBorg Market Outlook. My name is Pietro, SwissBorg Analyst and SwissBorg Ventures Senior Analyst. And this week I will be presenting an overview of inflation since new inflation data recently came out. Then we'll be taking a look at social media activity in the crypto space. And finally, we'll give a mention and an overview as well as a technical analysis of CHSB, the native token of SwissBorg. Starting off this week's market outlook, we'll yet again be taking a look at inflation. It's inflation, inflation, inflation. This has been the topic really since the start of the year. And unfortunately, it's really not going anywhere. As you well know, and as really any consumer in the world at the moment will be experiencing, inflation is really at sky-high levels. These are really levels that we've rarely seen in history. And when levels have been this high, it's always led to very concerning consequences for the global economy. Unfortunately, yet again, we're found to talk about inflation because yesterday, new inflation and CPI data came out. So what is this showing? It's showing that for August, inflation is at 8.3%. Again, we're very close to the double-digit levels, and getting that close to the 10% level is really an anomaly. As you can see from the US CPI chart, that is also still at sky-high levels. CPI is showing consumer price index on a year-to-year basis. And again, both inflation and CPI were found to be extremely high. I'm sure you're all aware by now of what inflation and CPI are and how they actually affect the global economy. They affect how much consumers can use or how much consumers can purchase. And it really affects anything to do with global supply chains, anything to do with businesses and consumers, and economic activity overall. If that wasn't enough, and as you can well see from the heat map of the S&P 500 down below, as soon as new inflation data comes out, if it's unexpectedly higher, and this month actually the expectation was a lot lower than this 8.3% level that we found in August, markets always react. So yesterday, the S&P 500, but global markets overall, were pretty stable. And when the new inflation data came out for the US, the results were really catastrophic. There was an initial, let's say, sudden drop in global markets, and that drop kept progressively going down throughout the day. You can see the biggest companies, how much they were affected. I mean, if we look at Microsoft, minus 6% almost. We look at Google, almost minus 6%. Amazon, minus 7%. I mean, these are drastic figures. And it's the worst performing day in the market since 2020. So since the rise and the arrival pretty much of COVID-19. This is drastic data, and it again plays into the theme of the possibility of a recession and the negative consequences or the negative path on which the global economy is on at the moment. We'll see if this is to persist and what will happen next month. But at the moment, as you see, and as you all have expected, with this anomaly, again, of inflation levels, markets have reacted very, very drastically to this news. Rather than just looking at macroeconomic effects, such as inflation, such as the Russian war with Ukraine, or any other kind of macroeconomic effects that we can see in markets, it's also very interesting to look at both sentiment, but also user perception. So sentiment, that's why we tend to look at the fear and greed index to see the feeling that users have in the market and the feeling that investors might have, specifically related in that case to Bitcoin and crypto markets. But overall, a mass adoption happened a couple of years ago. And this mass adoption within crypto, which is, let's say, a minor mass adoption, because it isn't as mass adopted as it could be. But there was a gradually increasing adoption of crypto in the investment space, with a lot of retail and a lot of new investors coming into the crypto space and being interested in a new form of assets. Now, this was also reflected in social media activity. Of course, we were in a bull market, so we were experiencing a bull run. Overall, crypto prices were going up, and by, double-digit percentages pretty much every day. The fluctuations were heavy, but the upward trend was clear. And this was reflected in social media activity. These 4 charts that I present can very clearly show exactly when social media activity aligned with the bull market. So we're showing the volume of tweets, both related to Ethereum and Bitcoin, that all of a sudden in 2020 had a massive upward trend. The same with YouTube views of influencers' videos. So some very prominent YouTubers became massive in the space thanks to this bull run and thanks to increased interest. The same can be seen by Reddit. So Reddit is this online kind of community where everyone's anonymous, and there's a lot of subdivisions of, let's say, more interested people in various forums, we would call them, which are called subreddits in that case. And in the subreddits related to crypto, we also experienced a massive increase in both posts related to crypto as well as comments related to anything in the crypto market. Now, the same way that this was aligned in the bull market, so in the bull run that we experienced in 2020 and after that, and shortly after that, the same can be found now that we're in a bear market. So all of those levels that peaked at the end of 2021 and early 2022 have now slowly been declining. So the tweet volume for Ethereum and Bitcoin, you can see, has been slowly declining in 2022. YouTube views of famous influencers have also drastically gone down, and the same with activity when it comes to posting and commenting on crypto-related information and news. That activity has also drastically declined. Now, this is in line, and this means that either we will see a new bull market and the market will stabilize, we'll get out of a bear market and we'll re-enter the bull market, and therefore social media will follow. Or perhaps it's actually social media that will give an indication of when investors and users have found a renewed interest in crypto and in crypto-related assets. It will be very interesting to follow this dynamic and to see which one will pull and which one will push the other to new highs and to an eventual new bull run. Will it be the macro level perspective, so macroeconomic news, trends, and political developments? Or would it actually be interest from retail and interest and exposure on social media that will guide this new bull run? These dynamics are very interesting, but it's definitely interesting at the very least right now to see that when there is a bear market or when there is a bull market, social media is very closely in line with those sentiments as well. Finally, this week's last mention will be given to CHSB, SwissBorg's native token, and its current price action. So since the start of 2022, as I've repeated now many times in my market outlooks and have explained the macroeconomic perspective, overall crypto assets have seen their prices decline, just as the stock market overall, because they're mainly guided by larger events, not specifically related to the crypto space itself. So the Russian war, inflation levels, the global economic health, all of these affect the stock market and have affected the crypto market as well overall, without having to necessarily look at each specific token. The overall effects have been clear, and therefore CHSB is also followed. Now, CHSB at the moment is hovering around $0.17. And at the moment, it's interesting to look at this price action because there have been some anomalies as of late. So this has definitely been the most interesting price action that CHSB has seen since the start of the year. It has finally managed to seem to have found a bottom, and it has bounced off of a support which was found at the $0.15 level. Now, this support is tentative, but it has been tested twice, and now the price seems to be hovering between the $0.15 and $0.2 levels. That $0.2 can be seen as a first, more psychological than technical resistance. In the short to medium term, it's possible that we'll be testing this 0.2 level again, but nonetheless, the real technical level is past the 0.2 and is found at the 0.22 level. So 22 cents, that is really where the current resistance for CHSB lies at. We saw an upward moving trend, at least in the very short term, of CHSB, and that can very likely be due to the recent developments that SwissBorg is bringing out, whether that be thematics, whether that be earn, whether that be the multitude of projects that have either been recently released or that SwissBorg has been working on. Now, in line with these projects and in line with short-term future releases, it's very possible that we'll be seeing some very interesting price action from CHSB, given these developments and given renewed interest and the possibility of also attracting more users. This is all very dependent on macroeconomic news and developments, as well as the new inflation levels and more news that might come out next month. But overall, CHSB's price action is finally looking extremely healthy and is looking very promising for the next bull run in the medium to long-term future. Thank you very much for listening. I hope this has been informative as always, and I'll see you all next week for another market outlook. Thank you very much and take care.